10% of the agents out there do 90% or more of the business. Why? Because they have nailed down a couple of habits and traits that help keep them consistent for massive success. I want to talk about what those are and teach you ways that you can begin honing these skills as well for your own success in your real estate business. So through the years of not only being a top selling agent in my market in the Phoenix metro area, but also being a real estate trainer and coach, I've been really fortunate to have conversations with literally hundreds of some of the best agents around the country and beyond. So if you do want to hear some of their tips and tricks and lessons that I am learning from this experience, I share a lot of those on this channel. You can always subscribe below to stay in the know with these types of videos that I'm putting out every week. What's really interesting to me is there is a vein of consistent traits and habits that the top team leaders, solo agents, or mega brokers all have in common. And what's really super interesting to me about this is these are all muscles and skills that any agent can develop over time. Now, a lot of these lessons are baked into the content, the strategy, the lessons that I offer in the Market Authority Academy. And so through case studies of agents who have doubled, tripled, or even quadrupled their businesses through MAA, I've been able to test whether or not this is actually the case. And it absolutely is. So let's talk about these different habits and traits that are great predictors of those who are the most successful in this industry. Now, these are in no particular order, but this first one is a biggie. The top agents embrace uncertainty. Now, this is the nature of the real estate business, right? There is a fair amount of uncertainty. And part of that is because there is a lot out there that we don't control. We don't control the forces of the real estate market. We don't control the forces of consumer attention and ways that it changes over time, particularly with social media, and we don't control our clients, right? But the agents who really excel embrace uncertainty, meaning they understand it exists, and instead of sitting down and letting themselves just fall prey to the changing winds of the industry, they focus on what they can control. Now, what's really unfortunate about this trait is it requires a little bit of inner work, okay? Because a lot of times when we are not focusing on what we can control, we are falling prey to a scarcity mindset. We are falling prey to a victim mindset. There are different things that kind of happen just throughout our life that cause our brains to be wired in this way, and I am one of them. I have had to overcome my fair share of scarcity and limiting beliefs, but in order to do that, you do have to do some of that inner work, and then that will give you the space that you need to focus on the things that you can control and go all in. Now, speaking of inner work, the top agents really do embrace the hell out of inner work. So I'm talking they're doing coaching, some of them are doing counseling. Hand raise over here. We're all looking at these inner beliefs, like limiting beliefs or mindsets that can hold us back without us even realizing it. So that might even be a way for you to look within and say, if I'm struggling with the uncertainty or the unknowns, is there more here that I can actually, again, have a little control over the way that I choose to overcome these challenges? There's no shame in it. We all go through the human experience and come out a little battered and bruised, or just, with a little bit of thought processes that could use a little tweaking. So again, just one thing to consider when looking at how we approach uncertainty and whether or not you're the kind of person that goes into a tailspin when the unknowns enter the picture, or whether you can take a step back, regroup, and figure out what you can control and go all in on those. Now, the next trait that I really admire in real estate agents who just go out there and crush it, and one that I've really tried working hard on myself as well, they just show up even when they don't feel like it. And this is really important, especially in different types of marketing or prospecting that require us to really put ourselves out there and even be vulnerable in some ways. So think about cold callers. Now, cold calling is not my thing, not something I'm into at all. In fact, it like gives me a rash by even thinking about it. But the ones who go out there and are super, super successful cold calling listing agents and who get like tons of listings every year from that, they face the fact that they are going to get rejected 99 times out of 100. Right? What kind of maniac puts themselves through that kind of torture? There are other people, maybe like myself, who just realized, and I promise this is not just to like toot my own horn, but at some point along the way in my real estate career, I realized that video was a really important thing. It was a really valuable way to build connection. I did not have a great database in the early years of our real estate business, but I saw that through video on social media, I could build a database and a network from scratch by scale, utilizing the free video features that are right here in my smartphone. And so even when I didn't feel like it, I put myself out there, whether I looked like a dang mess or whether I was okay and put together. Even when I wasn't feeling good, I always made sure almost every single day, particularly on Instagram, to put myself on video on the stories because that is where I was booking the most appointments. Now, if you're the agent who hates video and you don't do well with it and you just don't like it and you have no interest in exploring it as an option, this is by no means something that you have to do. But there are other places where you're going to have to show up in order to be successful. And the agents who put themselves out there always go further. So figure out what that needs to look like for you and see where you tend to shrink back when you really need to step forward into the professional that you know you have the potential to be. Now, this next one is one of my favorites. The agents who go out there and crush it focus on extreme implementation. And as I like to say, information without implementation is just noise. Okay, now I love you for being here and watching this video. I am so glad when agents reach out to me and say that they are binge watching my videos, they spend hours listening to my podcast, which is linked below. But again, even when it comes to me and the content that I'm putting out there, information without implementation is just noise. It's a distraction. It's a stall tactic. Now, this doesn't mean I'm talking about you. I'm not calling you out or anything, but I've definitely been there where I let the idea of, I don't know enough about this type of prospecting or social media marketing, so I can't really go all in until I have a little more information, right? And I want to read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and do all of my education and research, when really what I needed to do was just do the work. And that is what the agents who go out there and crush it, like the top 1% of producers, they focus on extreme implementation. A lot of times they're figuring it out as they go. Other times they've been doing the exact same thing day in and day out for years, which is why they have such a successful business. Remember, success is built in the mundane little details that happen day in and day out. And that can be really difficult to maintain that level of consistency and consistent actions, especially when you start seeing the success. So the agents who really overcome this are agents who implement, execute. They start seeing a lot of business come through, right? The results come because success is inevitable for those who are going to put forth the effort. Finally, these agents, who are really good at implementation, they start seeing the success. They're getting a lot of clients, they're closing deals, they're cashing checks, but you know what? They don't stop doing the activities that have gotten them there. They don't take a pause back and let one day go without doing their prospecting and revenue producing activities, because they know the moment they do, their business is going to stall, which is why we see this porpoising. That's why we see other agents who do the work. They see some results, they get really busy with their clients, they get all their deals closed, and they valley out and they have to start all over again from scratch. The agents who are in the top 1% focus on implementation over all else. Now, finally, the last trait that I wanted to touch on was one of my favorites. I always admire this when I see an agent who's able to embrace the prototype mindset. Now, what is the prototype mindset? Well, in the Market Authority Academy, when I'm training real estate agents and helping do a little bit of foundational success training, we talk about the prototype mindset. And what this means is you are going to focus on progress over perfection. Never is this more difficult when you have to do things that feel outside of your comfort zone or a little vulnerable, like when you're marketing to your database of people who know you, like you, and trust you, right? It can be scary to put ourselves out there when we feel unprepared or when we feel like something is not absolutely perfect. But here's the thing, perfection is yet another procrastination tool. I'm gonna say that one more time for those in the back. Perfection is a tool of procrastination. So for those agents who are putting together the perfect buyer guides on Canva or the most beautiful social media templates or trying to type out the most perfect email newsletter and getting really hung up on the details, number one, that work is going to expand to the time that we allow it. So as long as you give yourself time to tinker with that, that's how long it's going to take you to complete it. But number two, it's a stall tactic. Like focusing on perfection, which can never be achieved in any sense, is a way to put off doing the scary thing, which is pressing go. Now, the agents who really exhibit this have what I like to think of as the prototype mindset. And by prototype mindset, a really great example that I like to touch on is Steve Jobs. Okay, now Steve Jobs had, through the 80s when he was working with Apple, he had this incredible perfection hang up. He was so committed to perfection that he was one of the worst bosses you could imagine until he was finally ousted from his own company in the late 80s. He went off, worked on some other projects, probably, hopefully did some inner work, and came back later to revolutionize Apple into the superpower that it is today. And when they were bringing the iPhone to the market, he was not focused on it being the most perfect device ever set out as a smartphone. He knew that they needed to be one of the first to market, and which is why they put out the very first iPhone, even though it was not absolutely perfect and it didn't have all the features that they knew they wanted to include in later iterations. Now, if they had kept putting that off, they would not have changed the way that we interact with devices today. And now today I have in my hand an iPhone 12 Max. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. I've had it for about a year. It's a fantastic device. I would not be holding this if they had put off production of this device for years, waiting for the perfect time to launch it. Now, this mindset can be applied to any industry, but I see it happening all the time in real estate. I see it happening on both sides of the spectrum where real estate agents are afraid to, send out a letter of the heart to their database. I promise I'm not calling anyone out when I'm saying that, but afraid to do these things because it's not perfect or they don't feel like they're at a place in their career where they want to really put themselves out there to their network. I see it on the other side of the spectrum where agents literally don't care. They are putting out as much as they can to their network and to their prospecting systems because they know that the prototype mindset is going to get them a lot further than if they were just stuck and staying in the same place. Well, this will be fun. Which habit or trait do you think you struggle with the most, and which do you think you're pretty darn good at? I want to hear about those, so leave that in the comments. I want to have a conversation with you there about what you think you're really good at and what can be improved. And by identifying these, we can actually implement little strategies in order to work these muscles and get these habits and traits really dialed in so that you can be on the fast track to success among these other top 1% of performers in the industry. Now, hey, habits, traits, mindset, all of that's gonna get you real far. But what if I can offer you a strategy in order to help you apply those principles to really let the rubber meet the road in your real estate business? I want to invite you to check out the Market Authority Academy. If you're into these kind of videos, then you're an agent who I want to talk to. You can book a time to speak with me below and we can decide if working together in the Market Authority Academy is a good fit. And I can share a little bit about how we've helped other agents across the country double, triple, or even quadruple their business. And hey, if you found value in this video, I want to thank you so much for tagging along and listening to what I've got to share. If you wouldn't mind, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell notification icon to be notified every time I'm dropping new videos just like this. Not only does it help us stay connected, but it also helps me reach other real estate agents who need strategies that I'm dropping as well, and you helping me do that is very much appreciated. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, keep on crushing it.